Jamaica's new school buses, lifeline or disaster waiting to happen? When the first batch of bright yellow American school buses rolled off the ship at Kingston Wharves in June 2025, the government declared it a historic day for rural education. Ministers posed for cameras, promising safer, more reliable transportation for students who had long battled with expensive, unreliable, and unsafe travel options. This was phase one of the rural school bus program. 110 buses, refurbished and equipped with GPS tracking, security cameras, speed limiters, and a cashless fare system, all aimed at boosting attendance and ensuring safety. The plan sounded perfect on paper. Students in remote parishes like St. Elizabeth, Portland, and St. Thomas would finally have direct access to affordable school transportation. Parents could breathe easier knowing their children were no longer relying on overcrowded taxis or walking long distances. The bright yellow paint symbolized opportunity, and for a moment, optimism swept through communities that had been neglected for years. But almost as quickly as the celebrations began, whispers of doubt started to circulate. Photos of the buses on rural roads began appearing online, along with uneasy questions. Were these vehicles truly built for Jamaica's challenging terrain? And most importantly, could they keep our children safe? The safety question. One of the most alarming issues is something you can spot instantly. The buses are left-hand drive, imported straight from the US, and their doors open on the right-hand side. In America, that's the curb side, away from traffic. But in Jamaica, where we drive on the left, those same doors open directly into oncoming vehicles. On narrow rural roads with no sidewalks, that's a recipe for danger. Children could be stepping out into active traffic lanes, with no protective barriers. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz has assured the public that these buses will run on carefully planned routes with safe boarding zones and that trained monitors will supervise every stop. But in the real Jamaica, with blind corners, steep hills, and impatient drivers, critics say this setup is a disaster waiting to happen. Unlike in the US, there's no widespread culture of traffic stopping for school buses here, making roadside safety far harder to enforce. Opposition figures like Senator Peter Bunting have openly said they wouldn't put their own children on these buses. For them, the combination of wrong-side doors, blind spots from left-hand drive seating, and Jamaica's unpredictable traffic habits makes this entire rollout fundamentally unsafe. And for parents, that warning hits home. The hills are no joke. Even if the door problem didn't exist, another reality looms. Jamaica's rural terrain is no gentle drive. From the steep climbs of Spur Tree Hill to the winding descent into Junction, rural parishes are defined by challenging topography. These American school buses were designed for the wide, flat streets of suburban America, not the narrow, pothole-riddled, and often unpaved roads in rural Jamaica. Most of these buses come with automatic transmissions and gear ratios tailored for stop-and-go suburban traffic, not prolonged hill climbing. Without modifications, engines can overheat on steep ascents, and transmissions can wear prematurely. Downhill, the lack of advanced engine braking systems could put heavy strain on service brakes, especially in wet conditions. The risk isn't just breakdowns, it's the potential for serious accidents on Jamaica's unforgiving slopes. Supporters of the program say the bus's diesel engines are powerful enough and that the JUTC engineers inspected them thoroughly before purchase. But critics warn that paper specifications mean nothing until the buses face a full school year of real-world use, especially during heavy rains, when rural roads become treacherous. Crashes before the first term. What really poured fuel on the controversy were reports that some of these buses had already been involved in accidents before the first official day of service. Social media lit up with images of dented yellow buses on the back of wreckers, raising questions about whether they were too large and unwieldy for Jamaica's rural network. In several cases, the buses reportedly collided with other vehicles during test runs or delivery trips. The government insists that these incidents are isolated and in some cases were caused by other motorists. But the optics are hard to ignore. A program sold as a safety boost for children is already linked to headlines about collisions. For parents who were skeptical to begin with, every crash photo is another reason to doubt the wisdom of this investment. Opponents point out that driver training is key. Handling a long-wheelbase U.S. bus on Jamaica's roads requires skill, patience, and careful route planning. Without consistent, high-level training for all drivers in the program, More of these incidents could be just around the corner. The money trail. The price tag only fuels the debate. The government spent 1.4 billion Jamaican dollars, about 9 million US dollars, to purchase, refurbish, and ship these 110 buses from the US. That's roughly 12.7 million Jamaican dollars, 81,000 US dollars per unit for used vehicles with an average age of 10 years and mileage averaging 135,000 kilometers. The deal was awarded to El Hydro Limited, a company that is not a certified motor vehicle dealer, sparking cries of political favoritism. To make matters worse, the buses arrived without the pre-shipment inspection certificates required under Jamaican law. A special waiver was granted under compelling circumstances, allowing inspection to take place locally after arrival, something the opposition calls a dangerous lowering of safety standards. Transport Minister Daryl Vaz has strongly defended the procurement process, insisting that every bus was inspected by JUTC staff in the US before shipment. But for critics, the combination of a high price, a non-traditional supplier, and bypass safety protocols is the perfect formula for mistrust. Could there have been a better option? Many transport experts and everyday Jamaicans argue that the government could have bought Japanese-made buses instead: Toyota Coasters, Hino Lease, Mitsubishi Rosa, or Nissan Civilian. These models are right-hand drive, with doors opening on the safe side, and are already proven on Jamaica's narrow, hilly roads. Parts are easy to source locally, mechanics know how to service them, and they hold their resale value. The trade-off is capacity. Most Japanese models carry about 25 to 35 passengers, compared to 50 to 70 for a US school bus. To match capacity, the government would have needed more units, potentially raising the total purchase cost. But supporters of the Japanese option argue that the long-term savings in maintenance, fuel, and accident risk would have offset the higher upfront expense. In the end, the debate comes down to what Jamaica values more: larger capacity at a lower unit cost, or smaller, terrain-friendly buses that may be safer and more sustainable in the long run. Right now, the choice has been made, but the consequences are still unfolding. The road ahead. The rural school bus program was designed to close the gap between urban and rural education, ensuring no child is left behind simply because of where they live. It's a noble goal, and if it succeeds, it could transform daily life for thousands of families. But if the safety concerns, terrain challenges, and procurement controversies overshadow its benefits, it risks becoming one of the most expensive political blunders in recent memory. Parents and communities are watching closely. Every safe trip will help build trust. Every accident will deepen skepticism. By the end of the first school year, Jamaica will know whether this was a bold step forward or a costly misstep. For now, the buses are here, the routes are being drawn, and the first day of school is just around the corner. The question remains: will these bright yellow giants become a lifeline for rural students or a disaster waiting to happen?